Lots of beginning project builders, and even some experienced ones, are afraid to tackle projects with doors. But like many things, you'll find that building doors and installing them is a lot easier than you might think. You can even create a classic frame and panel style door, like we're using on the step back cupboard, very easily. Doors are really pretty simple. They're made of a few parts. You have vertical stiles with horizontal rails in between, and that makes up the outer frame. For the panel, we're using 1/2 inch thick plywood. When it drops in place, the 1/2 inch thick panel sits below the 3/4 inch thick stiles and rails and gives that great classic look. Panel comes soon, but first you need to assemble the frame. And pocket hole joinery is the way to go here as well. All you have to do is drill pocket holes in the ends of each of the rails. Now you can assemble the frames by driving in the pocket hole screws. To switch to a driver bit, I always like to turn the clutch setting down so I don't worry about overdriving the screws. It's also a really good idea to clamp the pieces together while you're assembling them. That helps keep everything aligned and keeps the faces of those pieces nice and flush. If you ever have a time when you can't drive the screw quite far enough, just turn up your clutch setting a bit. Sometimes when you're putting pieces together, you need to kind of pull or push them into position, and that's where the clamps are really helpful, because it would be very hard to hold that and drive the screws in at the same time. If you ever thought that building a door frame was hard, it's really just that easy. Now we can drill the pocket holes in the door panels. And for that, we're going to use a Kreg jig accessory called a micro pocket drill guide. You can use standard Kreg screws in the standard guide in 1/2 inch material, but 1/2 inch plywood is actually pretty thin, quite a bit under 1/2 inch. So switching to the micro pocket makes sense because it uses a smaller screw than a standard Kreg screw, and that lets you create a smaller pocket hole and drive that screw down in deep where it won't show as much from the back side. All you have to do is take the standard drill guide out of the Kreg jig and drop the micro pocket in, set for 1/2 inch material. Then install the micro drill bit and you're ready to drill the pocket holes. Here's a good tip anytime you're building with plywood. Plywood has a good face and a less attractive face. So you always want to be sure that the good face is what's going to show. That means drill the pocket holes in the back side. Doesn't take a lot of holes to hold these panels in. Do a couple in each end. And then a few along the edges. Pocket holes are done. Before installation, I like to take a little sandpaper and just knock off the edges that are splintered on the pocket holes. Now you can install the panels in the doors, which is just a matter of driving in the pocket hole screws. But since the panels are 1/2 inch thick and the door frames are 3/4, the panel may not drop evenly into the opening, or it may push all the way down, which will take away that reveal. The reveal's in the back now, and we want it in the front. An easy way to make sure the panel's positioned properly is to use spacers. These are just pieces of 1/4 inch square dowel that I had left over from another project. Spacers can be really handy to help hold things in place and keep them consistently spaced during assembly. So let's drop them into the opening and set the panel down onto the spacers. Now I can drive in the screws. Since I have the panel sitting on the spacers and I can hold the door in place easily, I'm not going to worry about clamps. I like to kind of slowly drive in the first couple and work my way around the panel. That way, I can be sure that it's going to hold while driving in the rest of the screws. Now with those set, should be able to just drive the rest of the screws in. So I've got them all there, and you get a nice, consistent reveal and a classic frame and panel look with really simple construction.